Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode on Laid Back the Aturazinga podcast. And our topic for this week is grief. Our guest for this week is Doyin Haastrup. Doyin is a public health professional that works with the Federal Ministry of Health in Nigeria. Hello, Doyin. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Arinze. Thanks for having me.
Happy-
Long overdue.
It's been a long overdue. I know. But is this your very first podcast, or have you ever done a podcast before?
No, this is my first podcast. I listen, but I've never done anyone. I have someone hounding me now. So when I said, I'm doing a podcast with a friend of mine, he's like, wait, what? Am I not your friend?
But how does it feel like to be on the other side? Because since you do all the listening and now you are the one talking, how does it feel?
We'll see. No anxiety yet. So I think thankfully it's the subjective topic we are going with. So there's no pressure to have to follow facts or anything. Just speak as it applies to me. So I guess that's good enough.
Fair enough. So no pressure.
No pressure whatsoever.
So Doyin and I actually met during our master's degree program in the UK. So looking back now, retrospectively, what do you think was your best memory from that particular time and your worst memory?
My best memory. Let's start with the worst, actually.
Why? No, let's start with the positive one. I don't want to start with
the positive one. Okay. I used to have this thing. I don't know if you ever attended. I used to just randomly plan on Sundays to cook for people.
Yeah.
Did you ever cook for any of those? And I remember when they had 10 people at home, because I would make a list and then go in 3-course meal. And one day, one of the undergrads, the person was like, yeah, I'd finished eating, and he was like, what's the party about? And everyone laughed like, oh no, she's just having a thing. And then eventually, even weekends when I was tired, it was like after church, someone is like, okay, so who's cooking today? Yeah. And it became a thing. Yeah. I don't think it's still happening because obviously everyone is either married now or changed countries. But it was a good one. It was something I liked. I wanted to try it in Nigeria, but no, when I plan stuff like that, I'm thinking, okay, who is allergic? Who likes this? I planned it once here, and I couldn't even put bacon in fried rice because I was having Muslims, and they came eventually. I couldn't even eat the chicken sausage, and so I don't do that anymore. But it was a really good memory for me.
I think I attended one of those because the one I remember now, I think we ended up playing games, Articulate, and the rest of. I think I attended one. I remember. Yeah. It was really nice. It was a good kind. Yeah. So now over to the negative one. So what was your worst memory then?
Well, worst is a strong word, but when I tell you, you decide.
Yeah.
I don't even think you knew this, but I'd done public health now because before we did our masters together.
Yeah, you told me. Yeah.
And most of our classes, and all our classes doing public health was Thursday and Friday.
Yeah.
But then I had this exam to write, and apparently, I knew the date, but it was a Wednesday.
Yeah.
And I was in the library reading, and my exam was going on.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so on Thursday, I wake up and I check. I was in the building and I was reading. I wake up and I check, and it's like, oh no. So I go to the reception, and the lady has to call someone in the school. Okay, I don't think this person is going to be okay. And eventually, school sent me to see someone. It wasn't for me. Well, obviously, as a Nigerian, if you tell your parents you're in deep shit, I think that's the first fear. The second thing is I just couldn't process it.
Yeah.
And that happened on a Wednesday, then a Thursday, then I had to have another exam the next week. And despite all the trauma that came with it, I remember that I don't even remember what I scored when I eventually had to write the exam the next year. But the one I wrote the next weekend, I had an 83.
Wow.
I'm like, okay, the mind is very tricky with the way it works. despite how bad that experience was, because the school eventually sent me to see someone, not a shrink, but a shrink 1.0, whatever the appropriate term should be.
But did the person help you at least? Do you think the person helped?
Well, so I'm sure in the course of our conversations, we'll probably talk about seeing someone, especially as it regards grief. It's a tricky thing, seeing people. And then when someone doesn't understand the cultural context, but in the end, the person was able to get to school to allow me write the exam without capping it.
Oh, okay.
Without even paying any money. So I guess there was some help there. But it was.
Yeah, which is good, at least. But I know our topic is grief, but this experience can be actually can be termed a traumatic experience, and it can be linked to grief as well. Because some people, you may find it so hard to actually recover from that, to be honest. So, how do you define grief actually, and why are you keen on talking about grief?
So heads up to you and the listener, I try to articulate my thoughts, but sometimes I find myself going around, like people that know me are like, okay, you need to pay attention. So I'll try to keep it to go in order, but when it doesn't, just call me back. Just so I'm, yes. But we're at this point in our lives where it's according to the time of life, we would start to lose people that those are people that we are losing because of old age, not even for anything else.
Yeah.
Right? But then for the past couple of years, I've lost people that it wasn't as a result of old age. And the first time I lost someone that he registered, I can't get over it. Like, it's not even I can't get over it. And the thing is that the person is not even a blood relative, it's just someone I go very close to.
Yeah.
And so it's like, how do you explain grief? Grief is, there's the dictionary definition of it, but in the end, it's how you see it, how you respond to it, how you deal with it. There isn't one size fits all. Because, for instance, I lose someone that is someone else's family member, and then it's like, it almost feels like there's this expression that I hate so much, crying more than the bereaved. Because we all relate differently, we all deal with grief differently.
Yeah.
And then you see someone, it seems like they're getting their act together, they're trying to move on, and then maybe there's even you that is dragging them back because you can't sort through your grief and they are trying to live with their grief.
Yeah, fair. But don't you think, like, the person you mentioned, the person may not be a family member, and I guess you guys were close, so don't you think being close to you can say the person was a loved one, so that's why the grief actually hit you that bad?
Yeah.
Don't you think so?
Yes. And then I have the most ridiculous memory. Like post having my child, post being pregnant, my memory got fucked up. Sorry, got messed up. But before then, like, I met someone in uni that the last time I saw her, I was 5. The next time I saw her, she didn't say hello. So I'm like, obviously, because the older you get, the more places you go, I don't forget faces. Like, I can see your sibling and I can tie the person to you.
Yeah.
By the time I ask questions, I might not remember where I knew the person anymore because obviously you've been to many places and all of that.
Yeah.
So that's me and my memory. Like, so it's like there are also things I remember, interactions with the person. Like the person I mentioned, we still talked about the person yesterday. On my wedding day, the person I was supposed to make my hair did rubbish, and I just said, you know what, Limi, went into the toilet and I was trying to fix it. And he's calling me because I met him through my husband, and he's calling me from the venue, from the church, like, where are you? I'm like, uncle, I'm not canceling the wedding. Like, where are you? He kept calling me.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing him, and in my head, I'm like, okay, like, well, maybe this. I just thought, okay. He was like, I remember his glasses. I remember how he dressed. I remember everything. Grief is.
Yeah, but that's a good point you raised, because now I'm thinking, you sound like you have a very good memory. Some people have blessed with good memories. Do you think that having good memory is a blessing and a curse? Because now, do you think it affects how you grieve as well? Do you think it affects you? Because if having a good memory is a blessing, you can remember things, you remember people. Then when bad things happen to you, do you think it actually affects you when you grieve as well?
So when it comes to grief, I often remember the good memories. It's easier for me. It's like, so good memory. I have a good memory, but it's mostly for like the good stuff,
which is good.
It can be shocking when I don't remember the bad things. So even though we're talking about grief, I have my family members used to say, oh, you know what, Doyin doesn't know how to hold a grudge, because I might remember being mad at you, but I would not remember why I'm mad at you. So the memory is even a tricky thing, because I'm like, okay, this person did me dirty. The only thing is, when you do it again, I remember what it feels like. But like good memories. So obviously, I recently just lost my dad, and it's like I keep talking about good stuff. I keep remembering all the good stuff. There are some bad things, but if I don't need the not so great memories, I have to dig to find them. They are not at the surface, but the good ones are like always at the surface. And before you know, there's this thing like is everywhere.
Yeah.
So like I'm in a space where I can see them, I can sense them, I do stuff. My dad was a polyglot, like he could speak a lot of languages. I was in university already when I found out my dad even understood French. So now I'm somewhere and I'm speaking Yoruba, speaking Hausa, speaking English, speaking, and then that's the part of me that is from my dad.
Yeah.
And it's right now, maybe because it's quite early, it's bittersweet. But then there's the good bits because obviously there's benefit from that. I saw that in his life. So like that's how I deal. And I try to hold on to the good ones and try to like console myself. So when it comes to dealing with grief, for me, that's me. Like I remember like those good memories and try to hold on to them because I'm like, what else is there? To be honest, what else do we have? Do we have besides the good memories?
Yeah.
It's hard. It is hard.
It is. It is. But you mentioned that you lost your dad recently. I remember when I lost my grandma, I was quite close to her. But for some reason, I felt I could see it coming. I don't know if that makes any sense. I don't know. She wasn't sick, but I felt like I could see it coming. And that later, I now realized there's something called anticipatory grief. Did you feel anything like that?
Yeah. So, you know when they say what you don't know won't kill you, it's not necessarily true, obviously, but let's just go with that. And then finding out it may or may not have been dealing with certain things, knowing that you know what, dealing with issues like that was not a matter of if, it was a matter of when. It shook me to my core, right?
Yeah.
But then it was fine. Like obviously, well, barring whatever the science was saying, physically it was fine. So this is someone that went to church on Sunday and on Monday, and then the next Sunday. So I speak with him like he was very cheeky. So, but on Wednesday I'm speaking to him over the phone, and I made a joke, and it just seemed, he just answered flippantly, like it was just like okay, and I didn't think anything of it. I just thought, oh, maybe he didn't hear me. And then my mom calls me on Saturday, and when I saw him, I'm like, wait, what? Because I didn't expect it. While I was happy that he didn't have to deal with, he was suffering, or like for me, it was for whatever anyone has to deal with. I'm very big on people being themselves. Like, so in the UK they call that in the healthcare system, like there's this thing like not patient care. I keep forgetting because I knew there was a policy around it even in Nigeria. But for me, it was important that whatever the case is, he had this dignity. Okay, patient dignity. That's what I was trying to remember.
Okay.
And so so that's one of the things I console myself with. Like he didn't have to deal with someone catering to him in a funny way. Like whatever his treatments, like he walked everywhere. So even on Saturday when he wasn't feeling too good,
yeah,
he was still trying to wear his wristwatch. He wears his wristwatch on his left hand, like facing, there's where he wears it. And I was laughing. I was chuckling because I'm like, okay, like you are at this point, he was walking, but I had to support him.
Yeah.
And it was just funny because I'm like, okay, this is not important. But in that moment, instead of saying, oh, daddy, don't worry about the wristwatch, I helped him strap it on. He didn't allow my mom give him support, but for me, like leaned on me. But then he had a funny smell.
Yeah.
And I won't lie to you, it's like I don't know. So people say it's old people smell. I don't know if the body. There's some things I don't want to know. If when the organs start to break down, or when you're getting older, you have a particular smell. Because I've smelled it even in the hospital in the UK around like really old people. It's like, for me, it's like death. That's what it smelled like. And it was just sad. And it's like, this is someone that it was larger than life, and then you didn't expect this, and everything just happened so fast. It was like way too fast, way too freaking fast.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
But,
do you think at the end of the day, like, do you think that when everything now happened, do you think there's any difference between what you feel, like the grief and mourning?
Okay, so yes, grief.
Take your time.
So it's like, I don't even think I've gotten to mourn in the true sense of it, because like I had so much to do. I had to worry about people. I had to it's like I had to make sure that everything went a certain way. I had to be, I hate that word, but like be strong
Yeah.
and get things together, sort through stuff. It's like someone looks at me and goes like, "You're strong." And it's like, if you're the strong person and you break down, then everyone else feels like there's nothing they're holding on to, right?
Yeah.
Even if I have my family checking on me. Oh, are you okay? Are you this? Oh, we're proud of you. You've done this. You've done that. And I'm like, don't be proud of me. Like I do it because I can or because I could, and I was happy I was able to do it. Right. So, for instance, I was supposed to travel last year, and so my dad was like, "Oh, you need to go." And I didn't even know what was going on, but I'm like, okay, while we are trying to figure out what's going on with you, I can't just leave you. My significant other has to understand that, okay, obviously I have my family, my immediate family, but it's like, I'm like, worst case scenario, if you say, yeah, follow me, I can follow you and I wake up every day and be crying for you. Like, I don't know what's going on with my parents. I don't think any man will, any good man will want to wake up, want their spouse to go through that.
Yeah.
And I was happy that I spent that time. But mourning is hard.
Yeah.
It is. Like, so for instance, when we had the event and I had to, my younger brother wrote the biography, which I think is the most difficult thing anybody could have written.
Yeah.
But he writes well and he was so articulate, and I just said, you know what, I will read it, it's no problem. And for service of song, I'd said that I don't care what anybody else wants for the funeral. One thing I know is not going to happen is there won't be a wake up. That's where the casket is open, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, you know what, dignity in life, dignity in death. I don't care that I'm a Christian and it's like, you know what, he's gone to heaven. This is just the body. This is about us and not him anymore.
Yeah.
But I'm like, for us, it's important.
Yeah.
And so for the service of songs, so I've been having to do everything like you say, morning superficial, because people came in and everybody was looking. They were expecting us to be like, it's like we had to be strong for people. My mother's siblings, when they showed up, because my dad was at the center of it. Everything, it was at the center of for everybody. We knew everyone. He held everybody the same way. Family, extended. It's ridiculous because my uncle was in the house and someone was calling my uncle like, guy. So I don't know if you knew Popsy worked in NYC, and he called my uncle, and while we are planning funeral, and he's like, guy, please, that your uncle now, help me with someone for posting. Now this is the man that's retired though. Following retirement was still helping people. Yeah. And my uncle was saying to the guy that, oh, he has died. He didn't hear him. He said, I didn't hear house. He don't die. He didn't hear him. As you didn't house now, ask him now. He's like, no, he just died. The guy screamed. I was going through his phone even recently. Like, people that don't know are still sending posting. Oh, sir, please help me with posting or redeployment.
Yeah.
And I used to read him. Like, even when he was in the UK trying to figure out what was going on with him last year, I have a picture where he was writing. You would have to sort through those names because it's like, you know what, those things determine people's lives. And I know people that I've interacted with that where they got posted to is what set the course of their lives.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so when it came to the service of songs, it seemed like it was easy. I'd planned everything. Like I'd said to myself, you know what, I'm doing 98% of the work, and then the 2%, all of you that said it was your family, pick it up. So sort out everything, put everything together, and then if on the day you don't know how to share food after I've gotten the food there, that's on you. And did that. Friday was easy, like even emotionally it was easy.
Yeah.
On Saturday I woke up screaming. Like I literally woke up screaming, screaming. Everyone in the house was freaked out because it's like, you know what, no, like this man is actually really dead.
Yeah. But that links me to mine. I was about to ask about your son, but let me ask this question before I link. Yeah. So you sound okay, like, because you know there are different stages of grief, you know.
Yes.
Baggage, depression, and eventually acceptance. So I feel like the last thing you just said now is the acceptance stage. But do you think everyone experiences each stage, or maybe they will jump from maybe to anger to depression, then acceptance, and skip some? Or do you think you must go through each stage?
No, I don't think people go through each stage. I don't think people go in that order.
Yeah.
I don't think so. You might not even experience it the way you want, the way it says in textbook. It's just so you know how research works now. is generalizable, but does it affect? Does it apply to everyone specifically?
They're always out of
Right?
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, in that order. Because what I've been saying was, so the day of the funeral itself, when we got to the funeral, I'd seen my brother's eyes. Like my brother is is military, like proper military, right? Even though he's really cool, he's a cool civilian, you won't even know. But also, I know he's military. And I saw him in the church, and his eyes were red, and I smiled. Later, I asked him. I said, "You saw?" Because he had to go to the morgue. I said, "You saw him, right?" I said, "That's why I didn't want open casket. Like, it would have broken everybody."
Yeah.
And so, even at the funeral, even before the funeral, people were saying, "Oh, don't cry." I'm like, I didn't even wear glasses. Someone said, "Oh," I said, "You didn't hide his love. Why am I hiding my tears?"
Yeah.
My younger brother was weepy, and so I don't touch him. Let him express himself. This is the only time he gets to do that.
Yeah.
And this is a man that loved everybody. He loved unreservedly. Like, why should we not be able to express ourselves that we are mourning, right? So for me, I think without even checking dictionary, I want to assume or imagine that mourning is like so obviously an action word is like the process itself, is like what happens in that time itself, and then grief is like the process which they've listed, and then those things they expect you to do. Was I angry? I don't know. Don't know if I've gotten to that point. I hope my mom doesn't listen to the podcast, but I haven't gone to church in a while. And it's not that I'm mad at God. It just feels odd. I can't even be mad at God, honestly. Like, I've seen God at work, so it's like I can't be mad at God. I can't. So where am I directing my anger to, right? Like, because I'm like, it's
Yeah, I understand.
when it's anger, like, have I even experienced that? Acceptance, well, obviously, it's like you wake up for a second. Oh, so something happened. My mom needed something and she didn't want to use her phone, and she used the SIM. I have his number. And then so she called me, like I was livid. Or something happens. You know how the iPhone is now, pictures are going through and I see him. Now I think, there is that is now in my, like, my brain, is in my subconscious, yes, it's gone. But then it's like, oh, he called me and I'm rushing to pick up the phone, like, oh, but it's not that, but his number is still there.
Yeah.
Because even the other person I mentioned, I said called me at my wedding. So let me tell you something. What I remember, so when I remembered, I was like, okay, you don't deal with death very well, was I lost someone October. I got married July. I met him through my husband and I got married in July. We got married July. October, he passed. A day before I even had to come into the UK, like, he passed. He was a pilot. I'd spoken with him at about 12. Like, I was making pancakes and he used to call me Iyale and I call him Iyawo. So in Yoruba, that's like first wife, second wife. So the main wife and then the other wife.
Yeah.
And at 4 p.m. he died. He had crashed, and it was shocking because this is someone I had spoken with before he went to fly. And then for us to find out, the person that was calling me at my wedding, like, I'm like, uncle, I'm not coming for the wedding. Like, I didn't cancel. I'm not running. Came to the house because he knew how close the person was to my husband and myself.
Yeah.
To tell us that, oh, you know what, this was the person, this person has passed and everything, and it was just. And then, so when he died, he happened to be a pilot. So when he died, my parents don't miss church, and my parents showed up to my house on the church day because apparently my husband had to call them and, like, this person crashed. Go to the house. I mean, I'm wondering what's going on, and they're not saying anything. And then someone calls me like, oh, where's your spouse and everything? And I'm like, oh, he's not where you think he is.
Yeah.
And then when it dawned on me, I just went into the bathroom and I just sat down there because I'm like, not this again.
Yeah.
And then so it's like, I thought about it now, and I'm like, my dad passed. It's like, okay, obviously I don't believe in all those funny things, but for me it's like, so that's my brain connecting stuff and remembering stuff. And I'm like, what is all of this? It's not even about anything. For me, that was just like, oh, a series of events that happened. I don't think it has anything to do with them passing or whatever. But it's like my brain trying to process. And I'm like, I remember all of these people. I remember having conversation with this person. I remember driving this person's car. I remember going to this person's house and sitting down and just gisting. Like someone that is a tad older, and I can just call him and be like, oh, so I'm coming to see you. I'm going to see him. And or my dad, like the cheeky stuff. Me and my dad had an odd relationship, and then it's like the time he used to call me ex-daughter out of a joke, and then because I mocked him about it, he's like, oh, you're not ex-daughter. Like, yeah, well, he used to register um business names, like funny business names. And I wonder now if he was still alive, maybe he would have registered ex-daughter, because there's a last born concept. And it's just, so now I'm like going through his stuff, and he's so meticulous. He kept stuff, and it's like seeing him all over again. And so there was an incident, and I've been having to drive his car. So I'm fine with going into the office, and then I get behind the wheels, and I just feel very sad. So I go into the office, and no one knows why I'm coming in with mood. But I had to drive my colleague somewhere, and we couldn't all go with our cars. And then my boss was asking yesterday, like, this is a different car, and I'm like, oh yeah, my dad was like, oh, okay, I see now. Whatever I saw, I didn't ask any other question. But it's like all of those things, like, it's easier to be in his house than to be in my house. I can sense him in my house. It's not even like he came to my house all the time. But it's like in my house, I feel sadder than in his own house. Like I see his photos and I don't feel bad. It's not like we're hiding his photos or anything. But yeah, I see some other things and it makes me sad, and I'm like, and there's so much, because he was such a good person. What I liked the most was that saying my dad is a good person is not because he died. And he got to witness that firsthand, like while he was alive. And I'm like, you know what, that's good enough for me. And I guess in the end, grief is for me, grief is understanding those things, using those memories as a blanket of sorts. Yeah. And hoping that it's good enough, and in time it gets easier.
Yeah.
There was this quote I saw once, like, we never truly buried the dead. What's the other bit of it? We never truly buried the dead. There's something in the middle, but it's the price of living or something. I can't remember. Yeah, so they just leave us or something, and in the end, it's the price of living. We have to actually live with the fact that, you know what, they are gone, but their memories still here with us, and all the stuff they've done. And I wish above everything else that I wish life was like, you know what, a fixed cycle, and you know when someone is at 80, they die.
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew that I lost 2 people this year, like within my family at once. My grandfather, I saw him in January. It was 100 and either 107 or 101. And then that's my dad's dad, and then he passed, and then my dad got to bury him before he passed as well. Yeah. And some people say that's a good thing. I said, well, while my mom's mom turned 96 in December, and imagine my grandmother having to tell me, sorry for the loss of your dad, and I'm like, the irony of life, like, life is really an oxymoron.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. But grief is grief.
But can I, like, you said earlier on that you've tried, that you don't like hearing it anyway. Like, people trying to tell you, stay strong, don't cry, don't do this. Like, thinking about, do you think children experience grief? And if you do, like, how do you stay strong to make sure your son doesn't see you cry? Or how do you even know he's coping well with his own grief if he's grieving?
Okay. Also, the expression is, you never truly bury the dead. We carry them around with us. It is the price of living. So I can't cry, like, medically, like I can, but something happened last year. Like last year, a bunch of stuff happened, and I cried, and I felt like my eyeballs were going to crack.
Yeah.
And I had to like get like lubricating eye drops for my eyes, and so it's like crying is hard because I have to remind myself, don't cry so you don't go blind.
Yeah.
I have like my child is like a whole other conversation, and I'm like, one of the best things I did, I was still having that conversation with my brother, was having my child. I know it's not me, and then my son does stuff now, people are like, oh my god, you have a watch, and I'm like, okay, I honestly cannot take credit for it because, well, generally I'm the kind of person that I would rather criticism. Like, if you tell me I've done good, I'm like, no, I can do it. It's not about doing good. But if you have a constructive criticism to give me, and I'm like, okay, I can fit that in and make my work better. But my work is good, or my work is this good because I can do it. I don't think I should be praised or something. So when it comes to my child, is when people say, "Oh, you've done so well," I'm like, I'm not sure it's me, but yeah, okay, you know what, I'll take it.
They declared, yeah.
He's a very sweet child. Like, there are cheeky photos of my dad and him. There was one where he's like, My dad looked resigned, like he looked that way, but that's my dad had a funny expression sometimes on his face. But I have that picture. There was one that even we even used at funeral, they were dancing, they were doing this swerve. I think it was the swerve. My son did the swerve, and then my dad just did some funny dance, and I'm like, having my child was so good. Like, you know, we are Nigerians and our parents don't even say I love you, and everybody's just like stiff and stuff. And then I had my son, and he's like, oh, I love you, grandpa, I miss you, grandpa, and all huggy and all whatever. The first time mom said I love you, I think my son was like, really for him. He said, why? I think it was about the phone, but I'm like, yeah, no, you should be speaking to your grandchild, know me. Like, I know you love me, but we're Africans.
Yeah.
Like, it's our own their generation and our own, right?
Yeah.
But so my son said, oh, we won't leave grandma until grandpa comes back. That's what he said in my presence.
Yeah.
He's very diplomatic, but I heard him ask. Someone told me, one of my aunties had said I had asked them that where the grandpa DEAD, like he didn't say his grandpa grandpa DAD, and they asked him like, what did you say? I was like, don't worry about it. She like is aware, and occasionally goes like, oh, I miss grandpa. And I'm like, yeah, I understand. We all do. But so a few tears here and there, but it's like he's taking it in good stride, and at least that's. I don't want. Yeah.
Sorry to cut you short there, but
that's okay.
Have you given him the chance and the opportunity to come to you and talk about it? Because since he's using the word instead of saying, he's just spelling out the word. Maybe there's none in his head. You see what I mean? Have you given him like come to you to talk about whatever he may be going through and he doesn't know how to express it?
No, I haven't, and that's something to consider.
Yeah,
I haven't. So, for someone his age, so when he uses a word, generally, when I ask him, "Do you understand the word?" Oh yeah, and then he gives a synonym, even a bunch of synonyms at times. But I understand that even despite being able to give synonyms at that level, he probably still doesn't understand the gravity of the word, right?
Yeah.
Or the gravity of the situation. So he understands it to a certain level, but not to. Oh, obviously we're adults and he's a child, but yes, I think it's a conversation I would have with him. Like, are you okay? I've asked him once, are you okay? But I've never asked him, do you know what happened to grandpa or something? No, we haven't had that. He went for the service of songs, but not for the
funeral.
Right. Yes, and the instrument.
Yeah, but is there any reason why we didn't want him to be there for the funeral? Any reason? Because I've had people ask this question: should children actually go to burial funerals of their loved ones? So I'm wondering, is there any reason why you didn't want him to be there?
So honestly, I just thought it would be too much.
Yeah.
Because like I had said, a service of songs was like when I was reading his biography, there was these inflections and everything. And I joked to someone, a bunch of my friends came around after the event and they came to meet us at the front, and I said, was I smiling too much like it was me that killed my father? They're like, how can you say something like that? Like, for service of songs, it was like, your emotions were, for me though, like, it was, I could keep you under wraps and just manage it. But even if I had planned for him to go for the funeral, on the day of funeral, I wouldn't have been able to do it because it just felt different. I woke up and it was hard, and he would have had to, and he's such an emotional child, right? Yeah. Like, even though in most of his emotions, if he balances it well, like, I know I'm talking about a child, but no, trust me, that's why I say I can't take credit for raising him, because there's just something about him when he even comes to emotions that it's just very impressive, right? And so it's like, I didn't want to throw him off balance. Even if I'd planned for him to go, like, obviously he had his outfits and everything, I wouldn't have been able to do it, not in that state of mind. Saturday was very hard for everyone. Even someone very close to me that insisted that, so my dad has a bunch of people that are called firstborns, older than my elder brother.
Yeah.
A number of them. And one of them, my dad passed on Saturday. One of them had lost his mother on Wednesday before my dad. And it was me that got to call him and like, oh, hi, uncle. He called me and said, oh, he was like, am I by myself on Wednesday? The Wednesday before. Am I by myself? I said, no. I said, yes. He was like, oh, call me back. So I was trying to reach him, like, what's going on? He now said, oh, his mom passed. And she was like a mother to us. Like, she raised me and my siblings at some point. My younger brother, we had to stay at her place, and obviously we had to visit eventually and talk about, oh, we remember her and all of that. Even though I couldn't go for a funeral because I said I couldn't do it. I went for a service of song, but it was hard. And so imagine on Wednesday he's calling me for that, and on Saturday I'm calling him like, "Hi, uncle." The first thing I said was, "Oh, my dad is dead." Then I rephrased and said, "No, our dad is dead." Because it was like their dad as well, because they had lost their dad a while ago.
Yeah.
Right? And then, so speaking of my son, I lost my mother-in-law last year. And so when you say grief, like, how do you articulate this? Because I'm like, so for instance, my mother-in-law, her mother is still alive. I'm like, I wish everything was, life is not like, linear.
Yeah. Straightforward. Yeah.
If you think too much about it, it can be really overwhelming.
Yeah, you may break down actually.
Yeah, I used to read a lot when I was read a lot. Like, my dad was the reason I started reading, but even my father hated it, because when I say I was obsessed with books. So now I see my friends reading, and I'm saying, and I say my genuine fear is, if I pick a book now, I can read to the point where I get catatonic, because it's like, imagine a scenario, God forbid, I'm Nigerian, so yeah, I can say God forbid, where someone is reading and then they lock the person up in a psychiatric home. Just give her a book, like, she can't come out of the world of books.
Yeah.
So now, like, there are a lot of books that interest me. I'm like, I don't think it will happen, no, but it's still a fear. It's still a lingering fear. Like,
yeah,
because I used to love to read. Like, there's this memory. So my parents just thought, you know what, this girl is on serious and she probably not pass WAEC. So do you know what my dad did for me?
No.
My dad used to sit down at the dining and read something just to encourage me to read. And then one of those days, my dad was sitting down with me, and I'm supposed to be reading one of my books, and I was reading Meals and Bones. But there was no way to hide the clothes when I had to there was no way to hide the book when I had to leave to the bathroom. When I came back, I just saw my dad meticulously ripping something apart.
Yeah.
My dad looked so sad. Like, I can't believe I'm not sleeping. I'm keeping this girl company so she can read. And she's reading a novel. Not just, and those nonsense books that on the outside, they draw the most ridiculous thing, and there's barely anything nasty inside. So he just tore it up and then went to his room and didn't say anything. But thankfully, when the result came out, of my friends, I was the only one that even passed maths. I had a friend pass further maths, I didn't pass maths. And it was nice to look at my parents, of course, in Nigeria. You can't say it. I never talk back at my parents, but it was nice to look on my face like, okay, you see, I'm not as bad as you thought.
Yeah.
But yeah, so those are like memories I where pops. He taught me how to ride bicycle. He was one of the first people I drove, and I drove him, and I was like, your driving is terrible, but you're not afraid to be on the road. Like, you have stuff to learn. And little things like riding the bicycle. We went out. He had an accident before he even met my mom, and that affected his shin, the front of his legs. So like, the skin there is like thin. And while he was teaching me to ride, me and my bicycle fell on him, and he peeled his legs, and he had like a bit of bleeding. And the next day he took me out to teach me how to ride again. And so even now, so I get on a bicycle, like 4 Saturdays ago, I go on a bicycle and I go sad and I just came down. Because I'm just like, you know what? So these are memories now that they are bittersweet. I'm hoping that the skills will tilt towards sweet eventually, but right now they are quite
hard. I get, because most of the memories are linked to your.
Yeah, linked to him one way or another. They are. Yeah. It's like pick up a book. This man used to buy so many books for us to read.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's why I asked about your child, because I'm sure he must have memories of.
Yeah.
That he may not know how to articulate to you about it until someone talks to him about it, because he maybe like you said, he's so used to telling your dad, I miss you and all. So now he doesn't have anyone to say it to anymore. Don't you think? Because it's a memory for him now. Don't you think you'll be asking, why can't I find someone? You see what I mean? You'll be asking a lot of questions. But anyway, because of time, like, let's move on, because now you mentioned that when you guys did the funeral, your brother was crying and people were telling him to stop crying. You were like, no, if your dad showed love, your brother should be allowed to express himself. You see what I mean? Yeah, because when we're grieving, most of the time, honestly, sometimes people they tend to ask a lot of questions, and to be honest, most of them are harmless. but they may catch us. Because we are humans, they may catch us off guard and intrusive, and we even feel like it's inappropriate. Why are you asking me this question? So when you in such a scenario, like, how do you handle these questions? Like that maybe like you don't have the because you are not in a good emotional state, you are struggling to answer, and like, if you feel some of these questions they ask are intrusive, like, but what do you think they can actually say instead to people who are grieving, like, to actually help? How do you handle the questions you feel like are so intrusive, and what do you think they should be asking instead to actually help?
So it depends on the person's capacity, and if you can, and how you are close to the person. So someone lost a dad, we are close but not that close, right? And then someone else, a friend, told me that it was a year service, right?
Yeah.
And he'd have been avoiding church already anyway. That day I had a migraine. No, I fell, and I probably should not even, you know how you fall and I said, oh, take medication, don't undo every machinery. But I drove about 45 minutes to go to the church, and she was shocked. And my own is just show up and be quiet. Like, what do I say to you to make you feel different? For me, it's like your presence. My presence, I'm trying to let you know I'm here. So if you need anything, you can ask me.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say, because obviously words, you know how they say words are like egg. Once it breaks, you can't pack it up. Once you say the words, you can't take it back. So it's tricky. If I don't know this person well enough to ask, what do they need? Right? Just show up.
Yeah.
I can even have silly conversation with someone that I bantered on a normal day. I can try to lighten up, but there are sometimes that even jokes are not necessary, right?
Yeah, it's just silence. Yeah.
Just show up. So it depends on who you are.
Yeah.
So like, I have a family friend that we're very close. Like, oh, you know what? Okay, this is what this is. I will handle this part of the funeral, whether we could afford it or not, because we're that close, right?
Yeah.
And some other persons. Okay, there are a lot of people that will be in the house. Let's bring food, right? Let's just show up and just keep you company and talk about everything else except that. I'll sit with you while you want to sleep. I'll sit while you want to listen. Right? Because I can't honestly tell you like it's like you say it is well, but sometimes when it is well, so I'm like, okay, you said that, what else? So it depends on your closeness to the person. And even then, no matter how close you are to someone, their experience in that moment might even change how your interactions have been.
Yeah.
So show up if you can. And then try not to say something silly.
Yeah, honestly. But I get that.
Because now you're saying say, but I'm like, what do you say? Me, if for me, okay, for instance, say something awkward.
No, but like, understand what I'm trying to say. Sometimes they don't really mean to be hurtful. Or, for example, I notice when we are going through something, when we are down emotionally, sometimes people even asking you how are you can be annoying and upsetting. Just by just asking how are you. Because you feel like it's intrusive. Why is this person asking me? You see what I mean? You can
do they know you are down in that moment?
Yeah.
Do they know? Like, so that's what I'm saying. That it depends on your relationship with the person. If the person does not know you are down, and the person asks you, "How are you?" Now it's left to you. Do you want to say I'm fine? Which is the typical response. Like I have friends that, "Oh, how are you doing?" I'm fine. No, be honest.
Yeah.
And even when they say be honest, do I even have the energy to start
complaining? Yeah.
Right? Because it's even while you grieve, something I realized was that even while you are in mourning, there's still some courtesy and decorum that is expected of you. And I'm like, gosh, human beings. Because people show up and I'm like, this person was young. Why am I cooking for you? And my mom, oh, you have to cook. You have to at least feed people. You have to do this. I'm like, don't mess with me. I won't cook for anyone. Right? But then I realized we had to do that. At least there were drinks and water. And then at some point, people came in with drinks and water. And some people have been around for hours, long enough that you have to feed them. You have to do this. So even on the end of the person mourning, according to society, it's like, you know what? These are...
It's expected.
Yes, like there's things expected of you even as the person that is mourning.
Yeah.
So when I would say to someone that is mourning, someone says nonsense to you, you're about to say "Bito modenia."
What does that mean?
That's the limit to the person's understanding.
Yeah.
If you have the capacity, then despite your emotions being stretched, to just overlook it, do And if you also want to rip the person apart, that's probably the only time you get as well to like tell the person shut up.
Yeah.
Yeah, but as the person that is going to visit, sometimes just show up.
Yeah.
If you
And be
can't do
there.
anything, bring the person from the dead.
Yeah.
Just show up. If you have money and you think, oh, the person needs something, do something. If you can cook, bring food. Would you like anything? Would you like anything? Are you comfortable? Just do anything that is deemed culturally acceptable without being too intrusive, and think about it. So that's another thing. Think about what you want to say before you say it. Think about it. If it's me, I feel take
Yeah.
yeah. So
Fair.
it's not one size fits all, to be honest. It's not.
Yeah. Fair. But just because of time, yeah. So finally, like so we can round off. So think about it now. You've lost quite a good number of people, including your dad, your mother-in-law, your friends. Do you ever think, yeah, that you get over all this loss, right? Especially your dad. And is there something you wish you could have done if you had the chance now to take back the hands of time? Do you think there's anything you could have done differently with them while they were alive?
Or like in my dad's case, I have more difficult conversations. But that wasn't me, that was him. I think I'm not blaming him, but I'm like, oh, you have to ask something. It's like, oh God, why don't you listen? You know what? I'm just not going to say anything again. So rather than like push him to have difficult conversations, it would have been because like in case of my grandfather, which obviously died at a very ripe age, I'd even said that I wish I could get my dad to like have him talk and record, because he had the most ridiculous stories, because he traveled everywhere. Right? So it's like, I wish there was a way to document those. And I'm like, that's the upside to technology. I can go and listen to my dad's voice note now that I sent to me, or I can look up messages. One thing technology has given us, it has almost made, we has sort of immortalized them. So I lost someone, and then the other person, that my friend or my uncle, I reset my phone and I saw old messages from him, and I'm like, this. So do I want to do anything differently? I was glad that last year, I obviously, like, I'm glad my family did not, my immediate family, my unit, my nuclear family did not suffer, and I'm happy that his man was understanding enough for him to say, you know what, you can stay, I will make you work. And I stayed with my dad, and for me, like, that was like the best part, because even now I stayed with my parents, but even now with my siblings, like, they want to feel bad, and I'm like, no, I got to do this. It wasn't just for me, it was for us. So don't ever feel bad that you were not around as much as you could have been.
Yeah.
Because thanks to a lot of things, globalization, jackpot, a lot of people miss out on those things. And I'm like, yes, maybe I would have had the option to do that, but I could afford to stay back. And I didn't do it just for me, I did it for all of you guys. And do I wish I could have done more? I don't know. What more could we have done? Because all of these things were like sudden.
Yeah.
Right? If someone doesn't listen and feel bad that, oh, maybe they could have done something. What you've done, as long as you're a good person, what you've done with whoever you've lost is good enough.
Yeah.
And if you have time now, what's also important is people are here now. Like, interact with them, like, be with them, keep up. You're in a different country, make calls, like, checking on people.
Yeah.
Just, how are you doing, and all of that, because life is long and life is short as well. Like, make the most of the time you have. It's very important. But live your life, and you know what, no regrets. I did what I could, humanly speaking, and that's good enough. And that just gives me some level of consolation, and I can live with myself, and that's about it.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you. There's something I say. One being we fall out with friends, family, and but in the long run, this life is too short. If you can make up with a person, reach out, like you said, squash any lingering differences or that you guys may have, especially like just like you mentioned, like your dad. It's good to actually sort these things out, because if you do not sort things like this out and you lose one of them, you may not forgive yourself for the rest of your life. I don't think it's,
Mm-hmm.
to be honest. So but I know how hard it must have been for you to come onto the podcast today, Doyin, to talk about your dad, because you sound like you guys were close, and everybody you lost. It's a lot. I would say me, from my own experience, I don't really cry that much. I don't think I'm a tough cookie. But losing my God, I actually cry. I was so shocked myself. Losing my grandmom and my granddad, it made me cry. I didn't expect that. So I can only imagine how you feel in this moment. You see what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
so I want to again thank you for at least coming to onto the podcast to talk about your feelings, your love for your dad, and how you are trying as much as possible to walk through this emotion. But this is all the time we have for this week, and hopefully we'll talk again soon and talk about other things. All right.
Something more cheerful. Thank you for having me. Thank you. So, thank you for chasing me. It's been almost 2 years now, right? Like, if
I know.
you were,
I know.
if if you were hitting on me, I don't even know if it's appropriate, but if you're hitting on me, you'd have given up. So, but you didn't give up, and thank you,
I
thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All
And
right.
thanks for being a good friend too. I remember you on the aisle at my wedding on a white plastic chair. I told you I remember weird stuff, right?
Yeah,
Like there were brown chairs and there was you on a white plastic chair with the very tall guy that has moved to Canada now.
Victor.
Yes, Victor.
I even remember that part, but yeah. Anyway,
Thank you.
don't no worries. Hopefully we'll do this again soon.
Yes, it would be nice.